Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my co-host, Michael Hall. But we are joined by very special guest, returning guest, Mr. Rick Doc Walker, former tight end for the Washington football team, somebody who was on the field yesterday for the ceremony of the alumni and Sean Taylor's retirement ceremony. First question to you, Mr. Walker, how was it?
It was great. We got a nice little pullover, and it's always great to see guys. I'm more into the 70s and 60s guys because I grew up, I was 12, as a teenager, they had Super Bowl in my hometown, and Brig Owens was on that team. He's from my hometown. And Charlie Taylor, Jerry Smith, Roy Jefferson. I mean, those guys, man, that was, Haraway, Larry Brown, Kilmer, Jergy. Yeah, it couldn't get better. So to see those guys still walking, it's a good sign because I look to them to see if I'll be able to walk or if I'll be able to recognize anybody, by the time they're doing the 2030 reunion.
Yeah, no. What did you think of the Sean Taylor retirement ceremony? Did you think it was well done?
It was as well done as it could be. You got a 15-minute time limit. The teams don't give a damn what you're doing at halftime. You don't stop their mental state of mind for a celebration. I think we all could have picked a better situation. I think that's easily said.
Yep.
And to me, anything like that should be pregame, and you ought to be able to get people from tailgating to get in for something ceremonial. But then again, guys got to warm up. There's really no right way to do this unless you could predict you're going to win the game. Then people would wait until after the game, and then it would be a party. But you don't know if you're going to win the game. So doing something is better than nothing. But now that you started this, I will cry myself to sleep if Ken Houston is not in the next batch, who is the greatest of all time at that position. Darrell Green, 20 years in, a gold jacket. And for me, I'm Larry Brown. So we could go on and on and on about woulda, shoulda, coulda. But since you went so long with doing no one, and then the way Bobby Mitchell happened to be on a Thursday night, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback. They made a decision. You got to execute it. Because at the beginning and the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is the scoreboard.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And speaking of the scoreboard, obviously the team took a loss to the Chiefs on Sunday. A lot of people already kind of predicted that going into the game. But just on a bigger scale, the fan base is kind of up in arms. They're rowdy. They're out there with their pitchforks. So as an alumni, as a guy that experienced some of the great times with this team, what would you tell the fan base right now to kind of put the pitchforks down and kind of get them back in a right state of mind?
Well, as I tell my listeners, if you got any quit in you, then just walk away. Because I don't deal with quitters. I mean, especially when all you got to do is eat and drink while they do all the work. So, if guys had to quit on us at 0-5, we wouldn't have had the greatest fan base in the country at the time. They didn't quit on Marty Schottenheimer's group. They went 0-5, and both of us recovered. And quite frankly, if Schottenheimer had been retained, who knows what would have happened.
Yeah.
So you don't quit until the season's over. It's 11 games to go. Even if they're the Bad News Bears, they're not alone. So how many of the 11 can you win? And that's the way. I didn't think they'd beat Kansas City. They haven't shown me any reason for me to take that. I don't have a child on the team. I'm not a cheerleader. I'm analyzing this and saying there ain't no way in the hell they're going to stop Mahomes unless they score 30 points or more. They don't have a quarterback capable of that. Heineke does not throw the ball well enough. He's competitive, and I love his legs. But every time we had a running quarterback, everybody's so critical. He's been given a pass. You're not going to do anything of significance if a guy cannot complete the forward pass. He can't hit wide open people. You just got to hope and prayer. And you don't run the ball. You refuse to do that. So you dug your own bed. So deal with it.
Yeah, and Doc Walker, they obviously, like you said, they lost 31-13 yesterday. And one of those reasons was because, like, I thought that they played well in the first half. I thought they played higher than we were expecting. But in your opinion, I know you said that you weren't surprised by the outcome, but were you surprised with how the outcome came into fruition?
No, when you decide to kick a field goal, first of all, 3 points per shot. It's never going to beat Mahomes. Yeah. They're the Kansas City Chiefs. So a fake field goal, I'd have been impressed. You're not as good as they are offensively. So act like it. The defense gave you some pressure. Mm-hmm. They were holding in. It took a MVP of the league pass. That kid was covered. He threw him open. That's why he's been in the Super Bowl and you haven't. No. So as long as the kids play hard, that's all I ask. They play their butts off. But we can determine whether it should be zone, whether it should blitz, whether they should run more. Those are debates for the sports bar. I've just given up. My emotions are too valuable for me to waste them on people that don't get it.
Yeah, 100% with you, and a lot of the fan base is. And you mentioned how the defense got a little bit of pressure. Defense kind of got 3 turnovers in the first half.
Yeah, one more.
So what were some positives you saw from this game that you can kind of take away, maybe build on next week going into Green Bay?
Well, I don't really believe in that. I believe you have a game plan. You're not playing this team, Mahomes. Green Bay may be better on offense. They're definitely better on defense. Yeah. So that's fool's gold. That's like patting yourself on the back for being 7-9 and winning a crappy division. I don't believe it's week to week. Okay. You had a lead at half. You squandered the lead. You failed to make plays. You dropped passes. You had penalties. You dug your own grave. You shoddy tackling. The things that you do, that's who you are right now. But you can fix it because you have 11 weeks. And Green Bay, you know what they got. I mean, this is the NFL. And then you're going to get Brady a little later. And you're going to get Dak twice. So you better grow up because you can't quit. You can't just say, timeout, we forfeit. Man up, or on the pay window, leave your check. Just say, I donate mine back. If you do that, I got mad respect for you. But if you take that check, you got to do better on game day.
I totally agree with that. And being better on game day, one of the players, Ricky Seals-Jones, with the lone touchdown of the day on that 39-yarder, you being a former tight end, Mr. Walker, and with Logan Thomas going down, how impressed have you been with Ricky Seals-Jones?
He's a player. And Doug Williams used to tell me about him. Doug really wanted him as well. And he's making the best of his opportunities. Bates got a catch as well. I just think that I don't believe when people talk about injuries to your starting 11. You're paid to have a 53-man roster. If you have a collision over every injury, then your front office is doing an average, mediocre job, and your coaches are doing a mediocre job. That practice squad, they're supposed to be game ready. That's why you selected them. You had hundreds of people to select. You selected them. Now coach them up. You got a first-round draft boy. I was on the field more than he was at halftime. That's on you because you see the Cowboy rookie tearing the league up. Rookies tearing the league up. There's no excuses with me, man. Nobody was crying about the check. I didn't hear anybody say they didn't want that money. This is pro ball, man. This ain't college. You're paid to go out and do a job. And if you get sand kicked in your face, you wipe it off and you come back for the next week. You got 11 games to go. Get with it. You got to beat somebody good in this league or you're not playoff potential.
Yep.
You have to beat a good team. You can't wallow in beating Philadelphia, New York, Jacksonville. That's fool's gold. All right? Last year you did it. You went down and got the wins you needed to win when you needed to. And maybe if they get the bearded guy back, maybe it'll happen again.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like you said, if you want to get respect around the league, you got to beat the teams that have earned the respect throughout the league. And with that being said, this secondary has been getting disrespected a lot lately, and they've been given up 40, 50-yard, 60-yard touchdowns. If you were what adjustment would you make on the back end to kind of stop the bleeding on the back end?
can't be speaking from ignorance. You can't talk about personnel unless you see practice and you know personnel. I don't know their personnel. I know that they spent money. They went after and got a man guy from Cincinnati, and they keep him in zone. They got Collins, who is covering, not why he was an all-pro, and you got him covering. That's on them. I mean, Cameron Curl, to me, was an exceptional guy. Yep. You know, I'm waiting on this. I don't get it. You know, but that's not my job. My job is to look at what they put out and analyze it, look at the scoreboard, and say, this is not good enough, gentlemen. You know, and if I were an owner, I'd be calling people up and saying, yo, are we on the same page? Whatever you're doing, I don't ever want to see that again. Sometimes you got to get involved because they clearly can't figure it out. They're trying. But, you know, I'm not a shorts and helmet guy. I'm not a walkthrough guy. And I'm just factual. And I think they need tough love. They got too much hugging going on. They need to start kicking some people in the ass and get them to do their job. If not, put the other guys in. Everybody was talking about, oh my, we lost this guy. So what? You hadn't done anything with any of them. I want new blood. You look at the right side, Lucas, and with those guys are balling. You're not losing because of your injuries, okay? You're losing because of your plan and the lack of execution by that plan, which is your job as coaches.
And that leads to my next question to you, because I was going to ask you, the Kansas City Chiefs defense going into this game was one of the
Garbage.
worst. Was one of the worst.
Garbage.
Obviously, was the worst worst in the league behind us. And my question to you, what went wrong on offense? Like, what can you attest to what happened? Because they only had 8 passing first downs, 6 rushing first downs. Their total first downs wasn't even adding up to the total of the Chiefs passing first downs at 21. What went wrong on offense yesterday, Mr. Walker?
Well, did you see the drive when they ran 5 straight times and ran and flipped the field and went all the way down? Then he stopped. They dropped some. He missed some. Yep. You get a flag here or there. Done. Wrap. I mean, they're still a pro team. Kansas City, you were up at the half. So you done your job. The second half, if you couldn't get emotionally driven, and they don't know. There's a detachment. Sean, everybody says Sean. They didn't act like they were honoring Sean in the second half. All the alums, they didn't act like they were like impressed that the pass was there to watch them show. That's on them, man.
Yeah, I agree. They didn't show up in the second half. I don't know what happened, but you mentioned the running game and how they ran it 5 times, flipped the field. I think Antonio Gibson up to this point has been pretty good. He can be a little bit better. He's dropped a couple passes here and there. But what would be your assessment of Scott Turner 6 games into the season so far?
Well, we have a different philosophy. So I'm sure he thinks he's doing a good job at his deal. I don't understand it. I'm not an empty backfield guy on short yardage. I want to, if it's my druthers, I have fullback. I put when the defensive tackle's a fullback, and we go and we open up, we get a yard. I'm also a quarterback sneak guy. I don't even want to mess with exchange. I've got Rouillet. I got 2 tons of power at guards. I'm trying to figure out why we just aren't knocking people off the ball in the control line of scrimmage. It's not fair for me to judge him. I don't understand his deal. He doesn't understand mine. But he's paid to get results. And I've been on teams that did what I'm talking about, and his dad knows too. Because Jimmy Johnson had to remind him at halftime of the Super Bowl against the Bills, we got Emmitt Smith back here. Okay. And they killed him in the second half. No. You can't be artistic at everything. Sometimes the art is in power and strength.
I absolutely love that, Mr. Walker. Now, to wrap this up for you, I have 2 separate questions for you. The first one being, what is your biggest question coming off of this loss to Kansas City? A lot of people have been talking about Taylor Heineke and the offense kind of going back at Scott Turner's system, and the plays you were calling maybe weren't great. What is your biggest question coming out of this game?
We have to get improved quarterback play. We have got to get better play at quarterback. I don't know who's coming back, and I don't care. Because any of the receivers that they drafted on their practice squad should be able to execute their offense, or they made a bad decision. So I don't care who comes back. But you got to get better at quarterback. He's got to play better, or you got to go to Allen. or maybe you get Fitz back. I would wait till after the bye for Fitz. That'd be ignorant. Give him 2 more weeks. But now it's clear that he's going to come back in my mind, or you're tanking.
Now, my last question for you is, this isn't energized, this isn't push for any reason, but my question to you is, if there was one thing, like let's just say the Washington football team came to you as a GM and said, look, Mr. Walker, there's one change either to personnel or like formations and other stuff that we're doing. What is one thing that you would say right now that you would do?
Here's the deal. I don't play. That's a fantasy deal. It's unrealistic. Their owner doesn't listen to doesn't take advice from football people. So why would it's never going to happen? First, he's not going to talk to me about it. I've been around him for 22 years and willing to do and help. They don't do that. They don't lean. I mean, it's not their thing. Okay, fine. I respect that. Then stick with your results. If they can live with their results, I can live with them ignoring me. And guys like me who care, who bleed Burgundy and gold, who live in this town, who want to help. That's on them. That's not for me to do. And I don't guess. And I know it's Halloween, but not my style.
I can respect that, Mr. Walker. And of course, I can't thank you enough for joining us again and giving us your insight into the game yesterday and hanging out with the alumni. Real quick before we go, just in case there's anybody that hasn't listened to your pod yet and wants to be able to get a link to go find out what's the name of the pod and where they can find you on social media.
Well, the Doc Walker podcast on patreon.com/Doc Walker. I'm on Twitter. I tweet during the games and try to engage and give you what I'm doing during the game. I talked to Julie Donaldson at the game. She said that they're going to be doing some of this on maybe the Green Bay game. I might be on that thing from the park doing it. And so I'm just, look, I want them to win. I don't have to like their style to support them. I support them. They can run the wing T if they choose. I'm going to be pulling for them to win. I think it's asinine, but I don't get involved in that because I can't change it. And when you're my age, you start messing around, worrying, and your blood pressure go up and all this stuff. It ain't worth it. You know what I mean? But I'm not going to stop pulling for them. And I'm waiting on December 12th like anybody's brother. So that's all I got left is our division if they blow this. But I'll be in it until the last game, all the way.
And a lot of the fan base would benefit from listening to you, Mr. Walker, and having that sort of mindset. I hope you have a great
I'm never coming back on this show if you keep calling me my father.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Doc. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right.
I got yelled at so much yesterday for that. You have a great night, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
But your parents did a hell of a job with you.
Oh, I appreciate that, sir.
And they ought to be proud of what you guys are doing with this podcast. And just keep it up, man. My door's always open.
I appreciate you, sir. You have a great
night.
night.
Man.
Thank you
Take
for the
care.
kind words.
All right, peace.
Bye, Mr. Walker. I love having Mr. Walker on, man. I love
the passion.
Awesome.
Every time he comes in, it's just from word one and from jump, it's just bang, bang, bang. He's gonna tell you the truth and keep it 100. So I gotta respect that.
Yeah, dude. I just love the whole mindset. Just basically like no nonsense sort of thing, and I'm all about it because right now. Ron Rivera had a thing that he said in his press conference today that he had to change his approach, and I would imagine it's what Mr. Walker said. It's like leaving his foot up some guys' rear ends that aren't performing well enough right now. You know what I mean?
Everyone keeps talking about. I hear people calling it like 106 throughout the day, and they always talk about how Ron's kind of just like no emotion on the sideline, kind of like looks like he doesn't care. He goes to the press conference, acts like he doesn't care, no emotion. And my reply to that would be, have you seen when he got hired, everyone was circulating the video of him getting on them dudes in Carolina in the locker room at halftime. And what happened? They came out in the second half and wiped. I forget who they were playing that game, but they wiped them off the field. And so my thing is, you don't think he's at practice? You don't think he's in the meetings in the locker room, like getting on these guys, yelling at them, like getting up their butts? Like, come on.
Dude.
Just because he's not on the sidelines doing it, just because you don't see him showing emotion, doesn't mean he's not digging into these guys. So,
and one thing, guys, he had throat cancer last season, and so I'm sure that his vocal cords aren't where they used to be, and I'm sure that he can't get as vocal as he wanted to be. So he has to change his mentality during games to not allow it to affect him to get in there. You know what I mean? And that's my whole thing.
It's just like you said, where he said he has to change his approach, like he said in his press conference today. Well, guess what? You guys want to see an emotional Ron Rivera? Maybe that's what they need. Maybe, like you say, maybe he's kind of been the stoic type and kind of I'll let them figure it out themselves. But maybe he's like, all right, time to kick these guys into gear and see what happens. So we're on to Green Bay.
And speaking of on to Green Bay, the Burgundy Zone is part of Listen Frederick, a curated network of local podcasts produced in and focused on the Frederick area. Along with highlighting local talent, Listen Frederick hopes to bring local stories, voices, and personalities together to create a podcast community. Listen Frederick is part of the Manning Media family, home of Key 103 and 106.9 The Eagle. You can check out more about us and other shows on the network at www.listenfrederick.com. It was a brutal loss, losing 31-13. I was at the game. I was at the ceremony. I was able to see everything. I wasn't able to go up and see the mural, the painting, the actual number on the field and everything. Like, I wasn't able to actually go and enjoy all of that because it was kind of chaotic going into the stadium trying to find my ticket. Like, my phone was on 5%. And I'm standing there, like, waiting in line to get my ticket with, like, 10 people in front of me. I'm like, I hope my phone doesn't die by the time. Like, my ticket is on here. This is all I have. I hope it doesn't die. But luckily, I got in. And my one question to you is, before we get into our next guest here, Hall, I want to start this out with our guy, Jeff Miles. He started us with a fan question. I really, really enjoy it, and I wanted to pick your mind about it. He wants to know, do we have absolutely anything to look forward to this season? He said, look, it's not over yet, but this organization makes it hard to be loyal.
Well, you heard what Doc said. There's 11 games left. There's 11 games to show and prove that they aren't the team that they've been for the first 6 weeks of the season. I guess my second response to that would be just like Doc said. Well, not really Doc said, but to paraphrase, you've been here for this long. Why jump ship now type of thing where, I mean, look, they could easily turn it around. They did it last year. They were 1-4, 1-5, whatever they were.
Mm-hmm.
Made like a little run. Obviously, I'm not going to say that they're going to do that this year because who knows what's going to happen. But again, 11 games left in the season. They just I just want to see like some fight. I don't care if you win, lose, or draw. It is what it is. Just put up some effort. Put up some fight. Don't get 31-13 blowouts. Don't get 43-21 blowouts or whatever Buffalo put up on us. Show some grit. Show that you actually belong there. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, and look, speaking of things that we need to look forward to, Jeff, we are joined by our next guest, Mr. Nick Akridge from Pro Football Focus. Thank you so much for joining us again, Nick. How are you feeling today?
Good. What's up, fellas?
Not much except for just depression, apparently. And I wanted to pick your brain about this offensive line because Brandon Sheriff was out. Same with Samuel Cosme. And Cornelius Lucas stepped in, Wes Schweitzer, and they absolutely dominated from my point of view. How did they grade out, and what did you think of the offensive line's performance yesterday?
Yeah, the O-line continues to kind of surprise me, honestly, from what I thought they would be coming into the season. I was a little skeptical of all the changing faces there, but last week, Wes Schweitzer finished with a 89.5 overall grade, 90.8 run blocking grade, which is mauling people there. Cornelius Lucas has done what he's done every single time he's played, 82.9 overall grade, 85.6 pass block grade, 0 pressures. He's just solid. I mean, that's what that entire line is. And with Schweitzer and Lucas, I mean, Lucas has always been a solid swing tackle, but with Schweitzer there, it's kind of sort of ushering Scherf out the door pretty much.
Yeah.
There's kind of almost no reason to pay him next year with the way Schweitzer's playing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, like I said, you don't want to see an all-pro guard walk out the door, but if you got a capable backup like Schweitzer stepping in there doing his thing, then why not take the cheaper option?
And it's a tough position to pay all that money to. It's not really one of those premium positions. So just kind of, if you can have that sort of backup who can play almost better or equally to what he's playing, then you got to just kind of move on.
Yeah, and Nick, last season, this was a bend but don't break defense. That was their kind of mentality. That was their image that they went with. But yesterday's game, they're 11 for 17. The Chiefs were on third down. They were 3 for 4 in the red zone against his defense. So what has happened? Why is the red zone and third down defense so poor this year? I know the third down defense is literally on pace for a record year as the worst defense in the modern NFL. What is going on?
Yeah, it's rough. Basically, they're not timing well together. What I mean by that is basically like when you get a good pass rush, you're not getting good coverage on the back end. If you're getting good coverage, you're not getting good pass rush on the front end. And so it's not really meshing well together right now. And that sometimes that's just luck. And sometimes like when you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes who can throw the ball 30 yards across the field, across his body, I mean, you just can't defend that.
That was
Sometimes
stupid.
yeah, he did that a lot on third down, was just scrambling. Like the play is completely busted and it's just backyard football and you're just not going to keep up with their skill players. So that didn't really bother me as much. It's just kind of, tip your head and you just move on. But a lot of them before the Mahomes game was just kind of busted coverages and people not really trusting each other. They're not trusting what they're seeing. They're not trusting who's next to them. A lot of time in these zone coverages that they're playing, you need to trust who you're next to because you're passing routes off to the next guy. And if you don't trust that they're there, you don't trust that they're going to be there, then you end up playing out of your zone. You try to do too much, and then you're the one who's at fault, and you're getting beat for a 50-yard touchdown.
Yeah, no, agree with that. And speaking of trust, it seems that they're giving a little bit more trust to Jamin Davis. He went from 13 snaps the previous week to
100% of the snaps.
Yeah.
No, not 100%. I'm sorry.
No, I think it was like 46 snaps this week. How did he grade out this week?
Yeah, he was in the 50s. I believe it was. Let me check it.
He was a lead tackler as well with 11.
Yeah, 52.3. He was always around the ball, which is fine. He was getting kind of blown up at the second level sometimes, but it was much better than what I've seen in weeks past. Now, that's not saying much with what we saw in weeks past, but this is kind of what you expected from him, or it's what I expected from him going into the season. He's a guy that's going to need reps, and it's going to be ugly to start, but that's just what he needs. It's much like a rookie quarterback when you're talking about rookie linebackers. They need to see things. They need to struggle. They need to see what pro offenses are doing so they can react to it and be better next time. And something I've seen from Jamin Davis a lot is if he gets screwed up with one play or one concept, he's not getting screwed up on that concept again. So he's good at kind of making those adjustments in game. But yeah, he's going to keep struggling. That's just kind of the nature of the position. And, you just kind of hope in a couple of years he's what you expected from a first-round pick.
Yeah, and there was one play in particular where they ran a trap run, and the lead blocker came to the hole. Jamin recognized it, saw it, attacked the lead blocker, and there was a whole bunch of green grass behind him, but he forced him inside, which only led to a 3-yard gain. I was really blown away with his performance yesterday. I'm starting to see the strides. I'm starting to see the progress. But on the other side of that, the flip side of the not being progress and regressing, this Washington football team only put up 276 yards on one of the worst defenses in the league so far in the NFL. What did you think of Taylor Heineke's performance yesterday, and what kind of went wrong on offense?
Yeah, I think it was one of his worst that we've seen. I love Taylor. It's hard not to root for him for everything he's done and where he's come from, but he missed a lot. And it's not just inaccuracies, but he just missed a lot of open routes. The Chiefs defense is not good. They have a lot of busted coverages. They had a lot of busted coverages yesterday, and he just didn't see it. He tried to force it. He's trying to be too safe, and you don't know if that's the coaches telling him, hey, be a little safer, check it down, don't do the scramble hero stuff that Pat Mahomes does. But sometimes that works for him, and sometimes that leads to those incredible plays where he's diving over pylons that he likes to do every single week. So I hope they don't take that away from him, because I think they're just afraid of the interceptions that's happened in the past couple of weeks. But I would rather have those interceptions because I want him to try to, fit the ball downfield instead of just playing it safe. Because we saw what playing it safe does last year. I mean, it does nothing for your offense. And that's kind of what we saw again yesterday is the 2020 offense where it's just, he might be open, he might not be open. I'll just play it safe, dump it down, live the fight another day. But you're not really going to win any games, especially not a team like Kansas City who could put up points in a heartbeat.
Yeah, 100% agree. And speaking of turnovers, the defense had 3 turnovers yesterday. It seems like even going back to that Saints game, maybe a little bit of the Falcons game, it seems like every week by week the defense is kind of taking small little baby steps as far as pressure, getting turnovers. They even forced a 3-and-out yesterday, or got a 3rd-down stop, which haven't seen a lot of those this year.
Yeah, we're rooting for just one 3rd-down stop every now and again.
Yeah, do you think that the defense is going to eventually turn it around, or do you think it's going to be more of the same of them giving up for like 400, 500-yard games?
It's going to be so tough because of the schedule that's coming up. I mean, so last year you kind of saw the same thing with this defense. It was kind of rough to start, and then it all sort of turned around.
Right.
And that had a lot to do with who they were playing. They were playing a lot of very bad quarterbacks, but you're not having that this year. We still got Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady to go against. But a lot of times these turnovers are luck. Turnovers are very lucky a lot of times. And yesterday it was that case. You don't ever see Patrick Mahomes I've never seen anything like that. That's one of the worst plays a quarterback I've ever seen. He dropped the snap, picked it up. It was a design run play.
Yep.
Dropped the snap, picked it up, and just chucked it in the air. I've never seen anyone do that. Tyreek Hill dropped a pass that led to a pick.
Mm-hmm.
So the score could have been a lot uglier than it was. The turnovers were pretty lucky, but at the same time, there has been more pressure, and sometimes they're forcing those turnovers. Jonathan Allen is just constantly in the backfield, and that leads to overthrows, misread coverages when you're speeding up the quarterback. So the consistent pressure is slowly getting there, and that will definitely lead to more turnovers. But yesterday, the turnovers were pretty lucky.
Yeah, that's to say the least. And speaking of lucky, I think the Washington football team is lucky to have Cameron Curl, who I think is probably the best DB on the field right now. He was one of the leading tacklers with 9 in total. What did you think of his game from yesterday? And I'm glad that he's finally getting a lot more snaps at 100%.
Yeah, he was great. He was one of the only few guys that didn't miss a tackle, which tackling was horrendous yesterday.
I have a whole question
horrendous.
just written out for tackling.
It was bad. He was the one guy that we don't have any missed tackles for him. But he did struggle a bit in coverage, which is it's going to happen because he was asked to guard Travis Kelce sometimes.
Yeah.
He's asked to go against these quick slot guys, and he's never going to win those. And it's tough for him. But I love seeing him on the field. I think he's much better than the other safeties that we have right now. But he struggled a bit in coverage, struggled a little bit in the run defense. I have to get into more of the all-22 to see where that was, but no, he was the one guy that didn't miss any tackles, and he's always around the ball, and that's what you kind of love about him.
Yeah, and another guy I'd love to see on the field is my guy Antonio Gibson. I know that he's been dealing with injuries throughout the season, so I don't know if that's kind of limiting his usage in the offense or not. But how do you? What's your thoughts on how Scott Turner's used him so far, and do you see him getting more usage, or do you see him kind of scaling back more because of the injuries?
I think it's a little bit of the injuries and a little bit of who you're going up against. Again, I talk about that schedule, and you're playing a lot of good teams, and I think you might be losing rather quickly against these teams, so you won't see as much of the run game. I love Gibson. I think they should feed him more, and that's weird as a PFF guy saying run the ball more. We don't do that around here. I might get fired just for saying that. But I do want to see them run the ball more, but I just don't think the game script sort of dictates that especially when you're going against these teams. In the past, people thought you beat the Chiefs by, time of possession, run the ball, keep them off the field, but you beat the Chiefs by scoring points. You have to score more than them. That's how you win the game. So to do that, you got to pass the ball. So I would like to see them run the ball more. I love Gibson. I don't know what the injuries are like. No one really ever knows, especially with a running back. They're always injured, just the nature of the position. But I want to see him get more carries. I just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and one guy that honestly was the leader, not only for rushing, but was receiving with a J.D. McKissick, 8 carries, 45 yards, and 8 receptions for 65 yards. He was heavily utilized. He was my pick for the MVP for this game, and it looked like that played into fruition, except for Ricky Seals-Jones, I think, blowing that up a little bit. But how did J.D. McKissick look yesterday?
Yeah, J.D. McKissick is the same as he was last year, and he thrives on that check down game.
Yeah.
And that's why he was racking up all those yards yesterday. It's why he was racking up all those yards last year. I love him as a third down back, change of pace kind of guy. You can trust him in pass pro, which you can't necessarily do with Antonio Gibson just yet. He was a wide receiver in college, and to try to ask him to be an effective pass blocker in the NFL after just 1.5 years, I guess, is a lot. He still struggles in pass pro, so you're going to keep seeing J.D. McKissick, especially if they're losing and they're passing a lot. I love what he does. Just get him the ball, and he'll always get you 3 or 4 more yards than what the play is kind of drawn up to get. I love J.D. McKissick, and I think you'll see a lot more of him, honestly.
Yeah, and we mentioned Taylor Heineke earlier and how he's been struggling these past couple games. Do you think that Ron and his coaching staff is going to stick with him going forward, or once Fitz is healthy, do you see them going back to Fitz?
I think they go back to Fitz. This is what I've kind of expected from Heineke. You're not always going to get away with that gunslinger mentality and kind of get away with those crazy plays, and it's started to bite him in the butt with playing good defenses. Yesterday, he was a little kind of scared to do it, not really scared, but he just didn't really move the ball downfield. He was missing things that were open, and Fitz won't miss those, I hope. There's just, you don't really know with him because we saw him for 2 drives in the first game. So I think they go back to Fitz. I don't see how you can start Heineke over him. I love Heineke. He's an awesome story, but I think you got to go with Fitz.
Yeah, one player that I think that has been getting too much flack has been Chase Young. He had a sack yesterday. I thought he looked really good. And he's progressing. I think he's getting better each game. What did you think of his performance yesterday, and do you think he is progressing?
Yeah, yesterday wasn't as great as the week before. The week before he was back to rookie of the year Chase Young, but he's getting a lot of attention over there. And at times with this pass rush, if you're not winning in under 2 seconds with the way this coverage has been playing in the back end, you're just not getting pressure. And they can't do it all. And I spoke on that last week with Chase Young. He was constantly beating his man, but the ball was out so quickly, so there's nothing he can do. And that's sort of been the story with John Allen all year. It's why his grades are so high for us, is because he's winning in under 2 seconds, but the ball's already out. So there's nothing he can do at that point. And that's why they call it the ultimate team game, because you can completely blow up your lineman in front of you and the ball's out in 1 second. There's nothing you can do.
Right. And speaking of nothing you can do, I don't know what we're going to do with this secondary. It seems that teams are coming in kind of focusing on Kendall Fuller, making him kind of the target. I think he was targeted the most yesterday of any of the defensive backs. And I think he gave I think it was 12 targets, 9 receptions, something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly
How has
right.
his grades been throughout the season so far? And do you see him improving, or is that just kind of is Kendall Fuller is who he is?
It's been rough this year. The grades haven't been good. Eye test that everyone sees in the game has not been great. They're asking him to do so much. They're asking him to play outside. They're asking him to play inside in certain packages. They're asking him to play everywhere on the field. And I think they're just asking too much of him. And I think he's one of those guys that just doesn't trust what's around him. Like he trusted the safeties that were back there last year. He trusted Curl. He trusted Reeves. And he was just staying in his zone. And they played a lot of zone last year. And he kind of stayed on that one side of the field. It was him on one side, Darby on the other. And all 4 of those secondary guys trusted each other. Now they can get to that eventually throughout the year with more games. But I think that's kind of what you're going to see throughout the year, because if they don't change it up, they're just going to keep moving him inside and outside with St. Juice coming in. And I like St. Juice, but you're kind of screwing over Fuller a little bit with not really knowing where to play him.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Now, to wrap this up, Nick, I have 2-part question for you. My first one being, Terry McLaurin did not have a great day, and he had 4 receptions, 28 yards, but on 8 targets. I know he had 1 drop. I don't want to beat him up too much because I love my man Terry, dude. He's my favorite dude. But how did you see? Was this his worst performance as a Washington football team fan, and can you attribute it to him?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So it was one of his worst performances, but it wasn't his fault. Like I said with Heineke, he wasn't trying to go deep. Like he tried to go deep one time, but Terry was doubled at that point.
Yeah.
Terry was open. He's always open. Every game he's open, and it's always dependent on the quarterback. It always has been, and it always will be. I love Terry just like you. He's always open. I mean, it's so dependent on the quarterback, and there's not like he can't throw it and catch it. I mean, he might be able to, but he can't do it in the NFL. So I just, you need the quarterback back there.
Yeah. And then Nick, if you to wrap this up, if there was one thing that you could point to say an area that needs to improve for the Washington football team moving forward for them to be able to be successful, what would that be?
Quarterback. Now I'm back with PFF now. It's always quarterback. Everything with quarterback. It's always quarterback. That's the easy answer. The harder answer, I would say secondary. I wouldn't really be able to point to one position on the secondary. I just think the 4 of them, 5 of them, all need to just kind of trust each other again. And that's going to take a lot of time. I don't know if it's going to happen when you're coming up against Rodgers and Brady and then Prescott twice still. So
now, Nick, one thing that I saw off of the film is that it seemed very conservative with the way that the plays that they were running offensively. Taylor's bad game, do you attribute that directly to Taylor, or do you think that there was some sort of something going on with the scheme and the plan that they had?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like I said, I think they're asking him to be a little more conservative.
Okay.
Because of the past couple of weeks where he's thrown so many picks. Right. But I just don't think you can do that with him, because that sort of takes away what he's best at. And he's best at those sort of backyard football plays where he's scrambling around, turning something or nothing into something. So I think it was a little bit of both. He was missing stuff, but I think they're also just asking him to be a little too safe.
Okay. All right, that makes a lot of sense. Well, Nick, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight, sir. I know I got to get you out of here running up against the clock, but real
Yeah,
quick,
I got to go work now.
if there's anybody out there that doesn't know where to find you and want to be able to pick up on your social media sites, you just want to plug those real fast.
Yeah, it's just Twitter for me at PFF_Nick, AKRIDGE. Yeah, just Twitter. That's where I post everything. You can see me complain about things and whatnot. And yeah, it's mostly just complaining at this point. But yeah, no, it's just Twitter for me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nick. I hope you have a great night. Enjoy this Monday Night Football, sir. And hopefully things will get turned around here.
All right. Appreciate it, fellas.
Thanks, Nick. Have a great one, sir.
See you.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Nick Akridge. I love having him on. I know not everyone loves PFF, but I love PFF just because they give you, it's just like giving you a range of being able to see. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Now,
Like
I know
they break down every play, so you gotta love that.
I know you answered Jeff Miles' question before, one of our fan questions, and what do we have to look forward to this season? And look, man, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you should cheer for a bad team because I'm not you know what I mean? But at the same time, what do we have to look forward to? That this team can get better. It can't get much worse up until this point, the way that they have been playing. I do think that this is better than where they are, where they were 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. They are progressing better, but it's really weird with this offense. The only thing I'll say, I'm looking forward to them progressing because I don't think this is who they are. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to be able to see who this defense is later down the road than they were in the beginning of the season. And as a team, especially, Diami Brown's coming into his own. You know, John Bates had a catch yesterday. Jamin Davis is playing by far his best football right now. Led the team in tackles with 11. I loved what he did yesterday. Cole Holcomb had a sack and a pass deflection. He's doing incredibly well. So your stuff to look forward to. There is growth with this team. Just getting them meshed together, Jeff. I know. No, just don't jump off the ledge, guys. There's no reason to do that. Now, our next question is from our guy, Brandon Reinbold, Meast21. Wanted to say sorry, brother. Brandon's grandma passed away last week. He broke his phone, so he hasn't been as active as he is on social media. So if you guys can, reach out to Brandon. Let him know you're thinking of him because hard time for his family, losing his grandma. I'm sorry to hear that, Brandon. And he wants to know, Hall, how did you feel about the ceremony for Sean Taylor?
Oh yeah, we were kind of talking about this before we started recording earlier. Obviously I didn't go to the game, so I didn't get to witness it live. And to be completely honest, I know they had it on all their social media stuff like Twitter, Facebook, the website, the official website page. But honestly, I didn't watch it. I heard everyone talking about it, and I seen obviously all over Twitter people posting the pictures and what they thought about it because I mean, what else is Twitter for? But yeah, like I said, I didn't personally watch it because I just felt like it was gonna make me feel some type of way because I knew it wasn't gonna be enough for the expectation. It wasn't gonna live up to my expectations because I had such high expectations and such high regard for Sean Taylor. Again, that's a guy that I not grew up, but like my formative football years was his college years and like his couple years with the Redskins at the time. So it was one of my favorite players on the team. That was one of my favorite players to watch when he was at college at the U. So yeah, I just like I said, I didn't watch it. Glad they did it. Obviously, glad they did it. Definitely much needed, well deserved, and way past overdue. But yeah, I just didn't watch it because I knew that it wasn't going to meet my expectations, and I just didn't even want to deal with it, I guess.
Yeah, and then that's kind of how I felt about it. I'm glad that it happened. Did I think that it was poor, mismanaged, and other stuff? No, because there's not much you can do at that point. And if they are telling the truth and trying to make this thing work in a short amount of time, I can understand with scheduling, and everything like that. So I liked it. I thought it was a good ceremony. It was about as much as you can do. And look, I know everyone is pissed off and they think Sean deserves better. And look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you you're wrong because I don't know. I don't know what would be best for Sean because Sean's not here. But I will say they were damned if they did, damned if they don't. People were going to nitpick and find something to be mad about with this thing. And there was no way around it, to be perfectly honest with you. And what I'm looking at this and saying, yes, could it have been done better? Absolutely, of course. But that being said, I don't put it past Dan Snyder in saying that he didn't take it seriously. I mean, if anyone is going to take Sean Taylor seriously, I'm pretty sure it's Dan Snyder. You know what I mean? Like, that was his dude. He's always been close with Santana, with Clinton. He's always given them jobs and abilities to speak and everything. So, like, I don't think that Snyder was just looking at this as an opportunity to crap on the fan base. But for the fan base, I think we all have to be honest with ourselves and realize that ceremony and everything is an indication of where we are as a team, as a fan base, as one unit. That's where we are in shambles, and everything is everything is so everything is just so chaotic right now. Any news that comes out, it's like same old, and everyone's flipping out, and that's just where we are right now. And I think the Sean Taylor ceremony was indicative of that. And as much as it sucks, that's just where we are now. And I know that everyone wanted the feelings to come back from 2007, from that Bills game, but it was never going to be that. And just reside in the fact that you have those memories of Sean, those feelings with Sean, and it's really, really hard to replicate that, to be perfectly honest. Our guy, Todd, fourth honorary member, is the on-the-field coordinator for the Washington football team. I don't think Jackson Mahomes is telling the truth, okay? I don't think that they deserve to be blamed for that. You know, that's just me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, who knows? No one will ever really know because it'll never be actually spoke about again. But again, I was in the beginning. I thought he was kind of telling the truth because you saw multiple people standing on it, multiple people taking pictures on it, stuff like that. But I mean, the common sense in me and in my mind is kind of like, if you see a thing that's like gated off, like maybe yes, they did tell him to stand in that area in that section, but if you see something like roped off and like kind of gated off, closed away from everything, common sense would be like, I should probably not step over the ropes to go onto that. So did they tell him to stand on the 21? Probably not. Did they tell him to stand in the general area of the 21 around the ropes and stuff? Most likely. So
that's where I'm at.
With it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
because like, how many fields do you go on that has a roped off section on it? You know what I mean? And do I think that somebody walked up from the Washington football team and said, "Hey, Jackson Mahomes, go stand on the 21 over there that's roped off. Go do that. That's where you're supposed to be." I feel like this was a situation, like you said, somebody said, "Go stand over there," and they literally are oblivious to life and think that life caters to them, and that they were like, "Oh yeah, this must be for us. Must be the section put off for us," and they didn't even think about the 21 being there. That's what I think happened. But we're all sitting here blaming the team. Look, I just think that was just ignorance, and they were just oblivious to life.
We as a fan base, yes. Has the organization made some mistakes? Obviously, yes. But we as a fan base should be turning our attention and our madness and our pissed offness to Jackson Mahomes, not to the organization. He's a TikToker. That's all needs to be said. Be mad at him.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Brandon's next question for us. How long do you think Rivera's trust will last in Taylor Heinicke?
Yeah, we kind of just hit on this before. At this point, it's been a couple, not a couple bad stretches of games because that Atlanta game, obviously, he played his butt off.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't have won that game without Taylor Heinicke back there playing quarterback. I guess maybe Fitz could have done that. I don't know. But either way, yeah, the Saints game, obviously he was bad. He was missing people, wide open people. Obviously this game he was if not even worse than the Saints game. So I definitely think that it's his job until Fitz is 100% healthy and ready to go and cleared. But yeah, I mean, he has a couple more games to do his thing, kind of show that, hey, you guys can keep me around as a high-end backup, a spot starter. But again, he's kind of regressed to what everyone thought he would, well, whatever most people thought he would be, because there were some people calling him the next Kurt Warner or Tony Romo, stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely think that it's Fitz's job once he comes back after the bye, week 11, whatever that may be.
Yeah, look, and I've said this multiple times. Taylor Heinicke is like the Jeff Garcia. He's a perfect guy for you to come off the bench, the rah-rah attitude. I want him chip on my shoulder, got something to prove. And Andy asked me on his podcast a couple weeks ago, he said, do you think Taylor Heinicke has done enough to solidify as a quarterback of the future? And I told him no. I mean, he's a quarterback for now. You know, he's got to show that consistency week in, week out, being able to play quarterback. And this type of game against Kansas City with their defense being the worst scoring defense besides ours in the league, and you only put not even 300 yards of offense, there's an issue there. There's a disconnect, and that's not good. And so, no, I think that wick has started to burn. I don't think it's going to be very quickly, but I do think that wick has started to burn. I would probably put it around 2 weeks, depending on how the Packers and Denver Broncos game goes. I think that's when we could possibly see something happen. I wouldn't mind to see Cam Newton brought in if it comes to find out that Ryan Fitzpatrick is out for the year, that he's not going to be returning at all, then I would like to go down that avenue. Besides that, if Ryan Fitzpatrick's back, then we're good to go. But besides that,
Nah, I'd rather just see Kyle Allen, which is crazy to even like speak these words out loud. But I would rather see Kyle Allen at this point than to bring in Cam Newton.
but
But that's just me.
he's vaccinated, Hall.
Oh yeah, I know.
He's
But
vaccinated though. Now,
oh my bad. I forgot the vaccination like makes you throw for 300 yards.
dude,
My bad.
he's all energized now. What is the little nanobots? What are the people talking about?
Right.
All in his body, making it like Superman and stuff. Now, our next question is from the Colonel, and he had something to say. He says, "Yes, we are all disappointed with the Kansas City loss. But is anyone really surprised?"
I mean, no, honestly. Like I think it's more of a surprise because you expected this offense to kind of this was I know I keep using the phrase get right game like throughout the whole season, but
Yeah.
this is supposed to be the turnaround, the get right game for the offense. Like, all right, we struggled against a decent Saints defense last week. All right, now we have a worse defense than us. This is the worst defense in the league. They have maybe two playmakers in Tyrann Mathieu and Chris Jones didn't even play. And so it was kind of like, all right, this is how we get back on track. This is we're gonna put up 25, 30 plus points on this team, and we'll make it competitive. We'll make it a pretty good game for 2.5, 3 quarters. And as you saw on Sunday, it was competitive for 2 quarters, and it was just they just came out like a flat tire in the second half. And so yeah, like I said, do I expect that? Obviously, didn't expect them to win. And overall, as a team, most people had them at 3-3. I want to say right now, anyway. So they're 2-4. So technically, they're only one game behind the mark that they should be at. It's just how they've won these games so far. It makes you kind of be like, this should be a 1-5, 0-16. But look, a win is a win in the NFL. They're hard to come by, so can't complain about that.
Certainly not surprised by it. I think anyone before the season looked at this game and knew that most likely Kansas City was going to win. Now, that being said, the turnovers originally and not getting points off of them, because with Pat Mahomes, they don't want to run the football very much. Obviously, Washington did a very good job at holding them to only like 3 yards a carry with Darrell Williams. Did a very good job throughout the game, obviously. But that being said, I was surprised because they could have easily scored those points early on to give them a lead. And that point, you're playing with house money because then you can get after Pat Mahomes because they want to throw the ball to get back in the game. And that didn't happen. It came with field goals. And that's where I'm kind of surprised by it because they didn't take advantage of that opportunity to be able to gain that advantage over Kansas City. That would have bode really well for them. But that being said, nobody is really surprised by the outcome. I was surprised with how well the defense played at first, to be honest with you. They forced a bunch of punts. They did a very good job of getting to Pat Mahomes and disrupting him. I will say that. But Colonel's next question, Hall, is anyone surprised by the record?
Yeah, like I said, a lot of people had them at 3-3. A lot of people had that Chargers game as a toss-up. I kind of chalked it up to an L. I thought we'd come out and beat the Giants.
Me too.
I thought that the Saints was a winnable game, especially with how they were playing. But even coming to the season, I just kind of didn't. I had little to medium faith that Jameis Winston could like turn his offense around, which obviously they haven't. They have a lot of injuries as well. But I had them beating the Giants. I had them beating the Falcons. I had them beating the Saints. And that's three wins. And I had them losing to the Chargers. I had them losing to Buffalo, and I had them losing to the Chiefs. So technically, I had them at 3-3. I'm sure a lot of people probably had them at 3-3, possibly 4-2 if you want to chalk up a Chargers win. Everyone thought like a West Coast team coming to the East Coast early. But with that being said, like I said before, they're only one game behind the mark that everyone had them set at. It's just how they've won the games and how they've looked in the losses as well that kind of makes you feel like, okay, yeah, they're only one game off of it, but they should be a lot worse than they actually really are. So
Yeah, and I think the defense has a lot to say about that. I don't think anyone's surprised by the record, Colonel, and I think that goes to the purpose of your entire question. Is that everyone needs to calm down just a little bit. There's no reason to really jump ship. This time last season, Hall, you're right. I think this was right after the Giants loss with Kyle Allen at the helm. Everyone was flipping out. Everyone was saying we wouldn't win another game, and we ended up sweeping the Cowboys. Dak Prescott just got hurt. They don't know the extent of it. He went in for the MRI today, so we'll find out, obviously. But look, you don't know how this season is going to go, to Colonel's credit. And that was one of the questions that he had, his next one. But the last one we're going to wrap up with, Hall. He wants to know, what are your thoughts on the DBs?
Man, I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know where you go from here. Me personally, at this point, I would like to see them call up Jeremy Reeves, kind of get him some game time. If you go back to last year, Cam Curl, Jeremy Reeves, Fuller, and Darby. Obviously, Darby's not here anymore. Those are the four guys on the back end. You still got Cam Curl, who's playing at a pretty decent to high level. He's the best one on the back end right now.
Yes, he is.
You still got Kendall Fuller, obviously, who, again, he's getting targeted and he's kind of getting exposed by a lot of teams. But if you put him back on that outside and keep him on the outside with Cam Curl, Jeremy Reeves, I guess you got to go with William Jackson. Sorry, forgot about that guy. But William Jackson, and then you got like maybe a rotation of McCain. I know Landon Collins' snaps have been reduced a little bit, and then Benjamin St-Juste mixed in with the rookie. I definitely think that could be the forcing to maybe get the trust, like Nick was talking about, back into the secondary. But again, coach keeps talking about he's not going to make any personnel changes, so it just looks like. And again, Landon Collins, I know people are talking about, he doesn't play linebacker, we need to move him to linebacker. Well, John Kine put out that he's pretty much played majority of the season in the box at linebacker. He just doesn't have linebacker attached to his name.
Right.
So
that was going to be my point, but of course you had to say it.
My bad. But so if it was up to me, I would put Cam Curl and Jeremy Reeves back there at safety. Bobby McCain, he's an up and down player for me. He has some flashes here and there, and then he gives up boneheaded stuff against Cordell Patterson and the Falcons. So they're hot garbage right now, to be honest with you, Colonel. But again, like Nick was talking about, and like a lot of people were talking about, if they can just start to trust each other, and maybe like the pass rush gets married with the back end, we'd start seeing different results. But until that happens, it's going to be the same old, same old.
Yeah, right now the DBs can't tackle a cold. To be perfectly honest with you,
problem.
That was putrid yesterday, the performance I saw of the DBs. Besides Cam Curl, the only one that didn't have a missed tackle. Kendall Fuller is the best screen blower-upper that they have at the moment. It's not even a word. But he's the best one against the screens at the moment. And then Bobby McCain did a good job in the back end yesterday. But Kendall was getting beat, and he was missing some tackles. And also the first interception, you need to catch it off Pat Mahomes. You got to take advantage of that. He didn't let the second one get through his hands. But my point with Kendall is he needs to be the captain, because right now William Jackson is not taking hold of that secondary, and Kendall needs to be that guy, and he needs to back that up with his play. And then Benji has done an okay job. I'm not going to get on Benji too much. He's not the worry of me. And then Landon Collins, he's been playing linebacker, but the issue is he's still going out into coverage. And I understand that if he's on the field, the offenses are going to be able to move him around. But like Coach said, I've been saying for weeks, Landon Collins needs to be a blitz specialist and a run support specialist. Does not need to be in coverage. That one wheel route, the tight end number 88 ran, that the behind the back catch, that was on Landon. Landon gave up a catch to Travis Kelce, then missed the tackle, allowed him to get out of bounds with 30 seconds left to give them a chance to kick a field goal, but that ended up being the Kendall Fuller interception. But he is just not, he should not be out in coverage, and I hope that they do make the adjustment. And so everyone, I just need you to calm down. He is basically a linebacker at this point, but he's still too much in coverage, okay? Take it easy on them. They know what's coming up, and I'm glad that Cam Curl has finally increased his snaps to 100%. He needed to be on the field more, and I'm glad they finally made that adjustment.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree with the Landon Collins assessment that he doesn't need to be in coverage. He needs to be in the box, like you said, run support, attacking the quarterback, kind of running sideline to sideline within that front little 7 box. But
he should be strictly a quarterback spy on Aaron Rodgers this week.
At the end of the day, the problem is These guys on the offensive side of the ball, those offensive coordinators, they get paid a lot of money
Yes,
to
they
do their
do.
jobs. And when you see a guy like Landon Collins on the field, you're automatically telling your quarterback, look, we might have a run called. We might have an RPO called. But if you see Landon Collins on that field by himself in the middle, attack him, attack. And like I said, they're reducing his snaps, so that maybe that's a sign of things to come further on down the line. But as long as he's on the field, he's going to get attacked in the passing game, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody, that's going to wrap us up for this show. If you made it this far, I thank you. I appreciate you. After all the turmoil this week with the fan base and everything, just want to let you know I love you guys. All right? Just don't let me get to you. All right, everybody. We'll be back on Friday, okay? I'm Kyle.
I'm Hall.
We'll see you guys then. Stay safe, and always, Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching, and if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way, you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!